are back with yet another episode of the Patriots Only Please podcast. As always, I am your humble guide, Jeff.
Mr. Sully.
I always like to let you introduce yourself. Absolutely. Man,
Buddy.
has it been an incredible last couple of days for the candidates? I mean,
Yes.
Hey, if nothing else, this is once again proof that legacy media is quite possibly on its way out. Although the opposing candidate, Kamala, did a very highly watched interview with legacy media, with Fox News the other day. But we've also been seeing the candidates do other types of media appearances. Trump has been killing it. Today alone, he was on. He did Fox and Friends this morning, which was a great interview. But he also did the Dan Bongino show this morning, which was a really great interview. And then yesterday he was on the Patrick Bet-David podcast, which was a really good interview. Probably between Patrick and Bongino, those are my two favorite Trump interviews so far because they're long form and they give him an opportunity. You're not worried about, the censors. You're not worried about, who you're going to piss off on television. You're not worried about somebody going, we got to cut get him. Unlike Kamala's interview. So I would love to get your take on the state of all of that. And then I've queued up a nice little, surprise for anybody that might want to get a taste of what they might have missed with Kamala's interview the other day. The floor is yours.
I know a lot of people are going to vote. They've decided how to vote either way. But if you listen to Trump, it's very clear that he's able to actually hold a conversation, and he has positions. He's been the president. He knows what he wants to do. He knows, and compare that to Kamala, who is just a lawyer deflecting. Deflecting is not an answer, but she just deflects. And case in point, the interview on October 17th with Bret Baier on Fox News was, first of all, her team showed up 15 minutes late on purpose. Mm-hmm. And 26 minutes in, they were giving them the cut, giving Bret Baier the get her out of here, because it was going south of her almost from the first minute. And after 26 minutes, they're like, it's enough already. This is not, I think he asked 4 questions in that amount of time. She didn't answer one, or maybe 5. She didn't answer one of them straight answer. Not one answer.
She filibustered the whole time. They only gave him 20 minutes. She was supposed to be there at 5 p.m. She showed up at like 5:17.
Yeah, she was late. She showed up late. She was very difficult to deal with, and it was contentious from the start because he asked her real questions, and she doesn't get follow-up questions. That's not part of the deal. Well, at Fox, that was part of the deal, and she had no answers for the follow-up questions, just circular reasoning and deflecting. And to me, I'm looking at some stats here while we're having this conversation. This was a pretty well-received interview. A lot of people watched this. It was watched by more viewers than Kamala's appearance on 60 Minutes, The View, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, CNN, and MSNBC. Mm-hmm. So anyone that was still undecided or in the middle, it was clear that she was not presidential. She didn't have any. By the way, she mentioned Donald Trump's name 113 times in 26 minutes. 113 times. She didn't pray. Ironically, in 26 minutes, she did not say one positive thing about the Biden administration. She didn't tout one accomplishment, not one.
Well, there's nothing to tout. So, but
that's what I agree with you. But that's very telling. And the fact, I guess what surprises me is that she went on Fox News and did an interview by herself with Bret Baier. She didn't bring her emotional support animal along, Tim Walz. He wasn't there to whatever he does. And it was terrible from the start. It got very contentious very fast. She was flustered the entire time. 2 minutes in, she couldn't, at one point, she actually said, you have to own whatever happens during your administration regarding Trump. But she deflected everything that he asked about her, about the wall, about border security, again and again and again. When asked why Joe Biden exited the race, she didn't have any. Her answer was because he did what was right for the country. Okay, why? History will judge that for us. Why is Joe Biden stepping down and giving and why? No answer.
Yeah. Yeah, no answer. And why, I loved it when she said, look, well, I'm the one who's running. I'm the candidate. Well, okay,
Yeah.
but why are you the candidate? And when
Well,
did you know that
exactly.
he was in decline? Yeah.
Well, exactly. And that answer, which Brett asked more than once, was a look of astonishment. Like from the Situation Room to the War Room to the press briefing room, Joe Biden has been nothing but awesome. Like, so why did he step down, and why are you the candidate for the president?
Yeah.
Because history will
Exactly.
judge us in our. You're not answer the question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, and then that bugged me. That whole complete. I wish Brett would have fact checked her to the audience, like done an aside and said, by the way, folks, anyone watching at home, deflecting is not an answer. Okay, let's go to the next question. Because you're not answering any questions. Just for the record, deflecting my questions does not an answer make. So
Yeah.
well, can you just keep deflecting
Absolutely.
for another few minutes? And
Absolutely.
then she kept saying she would follow the law when it came to these awful policies that she's championed. She makes the laws. She's the vice president. She's the deciding voice in the Senate on passing laws. So that's like a parent. That's like a parent saying to their kids, "Well, mom will make that decision." Yeah, but you're mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that sounded very lawyer-like, but again, didn't answer any questions. Like, these are your laws. She took no responsibility for anything, said Joe Biden was great, but it's great that he stepped aside, and Trump, everything that's wrong with everything is Trump's fault. I just summed up the entire interview. 113 mentions of Trump's name in 26 minutes.
For anybody
Yeah.
that wants a little taste, we've queued up something that may be an interesting thing. So check this out. Just a little taste of what we were burdened with the other night. Here we go.
If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding.
Come on.
So it was a tense interview at times.
So that right there, I mean, that was the first thing he said. You've been in office for 3 years, and Donald Trump's been running for 10. Yes, but you're in office right now. So what's going to change? You want to turn the page on what? Turn the page on your administration? And then what's even more telling is when she says, they asked her the other day on The View, would you do anything different? I don't see anything. Nothing comes to mind. But then, of course,
Nope.
on Fox News, she says, well, this is my president's going to be very different than Joe Biden's. And yet all she can do is keep deflecting back to Trump. So
deflecting back to Trump, not answering any questions. That wasn't an answer right there. Well, Trump's been running for 10 years. So what?
Yeah.
He's been in power for 4, and your team, the Democrats, have been in control of the last 16 years. So what are you talking about? And you're the vice president right now. Not an answer.
There's a lot of unanswered questions with this administration in general. But I think that finally, I don't know. I mean, every time we have these discussions, I always ask myself, how much is this going to move the needle? Because look, if you go on YouTube and you look at all the reactions from that interview, the left, of course, is going to say she, triumphed in the face of adversity and walked into the lion's den, and she took all these questions from that evil white fox man, and it's all that shit. So that's what we're going to get. On our side, we're going to get how ridiculous the interview was. And now the difference is that we actually have receipts. We can actually roll the tape, and everybody can see it. But how much? And I'll just keep asking this question every week. Like, how much do you think this is moving the needle? Especially now that we're 3 weeks away from the election. I think early voting starts for us tomorrow. So I mean,
I think it moves. I think it moves the needle. I think the fact. Here's what I think. To answer your question honestly, the fact that she needed this interview, that she went through with it and didn't cancel, means they think they need help. Because why would you do this 3 weeks out if you didn't need to? If you knew you were going to win, and you had the Fox News demographic locked down, which obviously she does not, she would not have done this interview. At one point in the interview, when Bret Baier asked her about dead people who were dead directly as a result of her failed immigration policies, Bret Baier said, as a matter of fact, earlier today, former President Clinton said in a speech in Georgia that Laken Riley and her peers would probably still be alive if Biden Harris hadn't redacted 94 executive orders on day one. Former President Bill Clinton said that, to which, of course, Kamala said, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
It's hard to get a read on where her support is coming from, because it seems like you've got the establishment, like this, well, the left and the right, the establishment, they're propping her up, but yet they can't, like, for example, when Bill Clinton goes out there and tries to stump on her behalf, but then can't really get around the logic about the immigration issue and how, you know, for example, those girls would have been safer had the border been more secure.
Of course.
That's the policy he ran on back in the 90s. So how do you reconcile the support versus the reality?
So to answer your question, I think the fact that she had to go on Fox and actually go through with it means things aren't going as planned. Because why would you jeopardize your success 3 weeks out going on a network that's not sympathetic to you, when all you've done is talk to people who are not only sympathetic to you, but fact check your opponent, edit the video to make you look better, and don't touch topics in advance. That when Trump debated Kamala, CBS was told in advance, she'll only show up if you don't talk about Joe Biden's decline, don't talk about Kamala's job as the AG in California. There was a list, and they agreed to every single item on the list. So she was safe in every possible way, except for the Fox interview, and that wasn't edited. That was all shot and released in real time, and we saw what a train wreck it really was. So I think people are the shine is gone. You know, the grift is in, obviously. So the mainstream media really is shilling on her behalf. They really are bending the rules and making her look better than she actually is, because she has nothing to say.
Yep. And what's interesting, speaking of some other interesting sound bites, although this is not necessarily a sound bite, but it's a very telling little conversation. And I think you know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to cue up something here. This was former President Barack Obama talking with his former Vice President Joe Biden at Ethel Kennedy's funeral the other day. And although you can't necessarily make out what they're saying, there's a lot of body language, and you can look, who knows what they're talking about, although there have been a few experts who have tried to decipher that. But let's check this out. I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. And this is coming from, I'll just have you know, this is coming from Sky News in Australia, who does tend to lean pretty conservative, but this is a foreign country's take on our elections. They have no real, they're not voting. They have no real, I mean, they do have a stake in the game, but all right, check this out.
But first, you may have seen this footage of Joe Biden and Barack Obama having an animated discussion at the memorial service for Ethel Kennedy this week. And that sparked a lot of humorous speculation as to what they were saying. But you know what? The New York Post apparently has the real story. They hired a lip reader and said that President Biden griped to former President Barack Obama that she, I guess Harris, is not as strong as me. With Obama agreeing, that's true. The former president also said, apparently, we have time. Yeah, we'll get it in for sure, Biden agreed. A source close to Obama didn't deny the translation, but only said, only President Obama and President Biden know what they discussed yesterday. Any assertion otherwise is ridiculous. We'll see about that, but with polls on a knife edge and Joe Biden still bitter about being pushed aside, it doesn't seem that unlikely to me.
Absolutely. Just the body language in general. I mean, they're clearly nervous. So you had brought up a good point when we were off camera about why bother doing this now? Is it going to change any hearts and minds? Is it going to really move the needle at all? Why do this now? Trump is gaining momentum, and I think he's just going out and doing all of these kind of alternative media that we were wanting him to do anyway. And I kind of called this months ago. I said, look, Trump is going to end up doing like the Patrick Bet-David show and all of these other big podcasts as it gets closer to the election, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. There was some rumors about her going on Rogan. If she can't handle a 20-minute, slightly hardball interview with Bret Baier of Fox News, how's she going to handle 3 hours of
I don't think Rogan will take her. Why would Rogan want to have her on his show? How's that benefit him? I mean, don't forget now. If you're asking to do the interview, you need it. Rogan doesn't need anyone. He doesn't need her on his show. Trump can handle himself for 3 hours, no problem. But I think if Kamala did Joe Rogan's show, this is why probably it won't happen. Rogan's deal with Spotify was, I do what I want, you leave me alone, give me $100 million. And they went, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But Kamala's team would definitely have to prep Rogan, and Rogan would be like, fuck you, I'm going to ask what I want for as long as I want, or she doesn't come on the show. And they'll go, okay, we pass. Like, okay, see ya. Right? Because they would do the same thing. They would give him things. These are off limits. It's only going to be 30 minutes. He goes, it's as long as I want. It's my show, and it's as long as I want it to be. So don't unleash me on her and give me any kind of rules, because that's not how this works. Go somewhere else. I don't need your business. I'm very, very successful doing it the way I want to do it.
She can go back on the Call Her Daddy podcast if she wants to.
Go back on the View. Go back on the View, or they're all going to pat your shoulder while you're talking to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
But
okay, so why do you think she's doing these now? I mean, what's the point? Is it a sign of desperation?
They're DC hacks. They don't really connect with regular people. And they think by going on some of these shows where there's nothing but regular people watching them, they can reach people they can't reach through legacy media. The problem with Fox News is everyone on Fox News can't stand her or Joe Biden or the left. So again, I don't get that move at all, except maybe she thinks there's some undecided middle-of-the-road Republicans that maybe she could grab. But it was a terrible interview. It was contentious. Nothing was said of value. And we all know now that she arrived late and left early. And when there's no teleprompter, when there are follow-up questions, and when there are questions that are of substance, she's got nothing to say. She goes full-on lawyer, circular reasoning and deflecting and blame Trump.
It's no surprise for us because we've been watching her, we've been watching Biden, we've been watching this whole administration for 3.5, almost 4 years now at this point. So nothing's going to surprise us. But again, I keep going back to the left. Look, they're going to keep getting spoon-fed all of these. They're going to cherry pick all of these moments and try to spin them to where she's the hero. But the people that are really just hardcore left, they're just going to vote for, blue no matter who, anybody but Trump. At this point, like you said the other day, the goal should just be undecided, independents, and those who might still be on the fence. Although I can't imagine there's that many people who are on the fence.
Once again, Jeff, once again, there have to be enough for her to go on a show like Fox News, which spend 24/7 attacking their administration. Like she went on the other side. There had to be a reason for it. I mean, she has professional strategists calculating her every move and her every word. It had to make sense to them to do this for some reason. I can't imagine what that reason would be, because it made her look awful. It made her look less presidential than she's ever looked to me.
She was noticeably absent from another event last night. They did the Al Smith fundraiser for the Catholic Church in New York, and Trump was there standing on the dais against arch enemies, Chuck Schumer, and the whole DC machine that literally wants the man dead. And zinger after zinger, and it was just, rapid fire. He was relentless. It was great. Now he says, he didn't write the jokes. They had somebody else do it. Some of the jokes he liked, some of them he didn't. But still, that again speaks volumes. And of course, Kamala appeared in an edited, scripted video where, interestingly, if you've seen the video, it was basically just a Saturday Night Live sketch where there was more of I can't remember her name, but the one who does the Mary Catherine Gallagher, the one who smells her armpits. There was more of her than Kamala, which again, it's just wow, we're spoon feeding you scripts.
Well, they have a candidate who was selected, not elected. She wasn't primaried. She was chosen. She was selected to be the vice president. She didn't win an election. She never won an election. And within 3 months of Joe Biden stepping down for no one knows apparently why, we're supposed to just accept that she'll be a great leader when she's, like we said, been silent as an electric car for 3.5 years and hasn't done anything. She's an imperfect candidate, to say the least. And I think she's worse than Hillary Clinton. She's a terrible candidate. She's unlikable, but she's also unlistenable. You can hear the phrases that they hammered into her head. She pops into the nonsense constantly. The circular logic, deflecting, blame Trump. That's her whole. I just gave you her whole strategy right there. Answer the question by not answering it, by circling back to her vision of the future, and then blaming Trump for everything that's ever gone wrong in the history of history.
And what vision of the future would that be? People can say what they want about Trump, because a lot of people can say, "Oh, he rambles, he goes in and out of different subjects, and he doesn't stay on. It's hard to rope him back in either." But the one thing he has been is very consistent with his policies and his vision for 40 years at this point. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like you know what you're going to get with Donald Trump. We had it for 4 years. And for anybody to go around, and I know that we've belabored this point before, as do all the other pundits out there, but Trump was in power for 4 years out of the last, 16 or 20 or whatever that is. I mean, so it's either been deep state Republicans or deep state Democrats for forever. And we had 4 years of Trump. And under those 4 years, we weren't in any foreign entanglements. We were energy independent. All of the things, all the talking points that Trump likes to point out, because it's true. And yet we want to go back to that. I mean, again, I come to, what are we turning the page on?
We're not turning the page on anything.
No.
And her saying that her administration won't look anything like a Biden's administration, which was awesome, means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. And to not get to specifics this late in the game, it's just meaning you don't have them. So I don't see how she's electable. In my opinion, I don't see how she's electable.
Not at all. She really is the worst candidate since, ever, right? She's really the worst candidate ever. Now, obviously, people on the left say, well, Trump is the worst candidate ever. Really? He was so bad he was elected.
He ended Hillary Clinton's career, her 40-year career in politics. He ended it. He did something right.
Yep, absolutely. So I think this again, as usual, it speaks more to the fact that these people are kind of shitting their pants because the party's going to be over for them. It's not just about left versus right. We've been saying this forever. It's about the people versus the deep state. And Trump, as imperfect of a vessel or a messenger someone may think he is the bull in the china shop that's shaking up the system, and that's what's got them petrified, because they know that the party's over, and it's because it's not just how they govern, it's the corruption on all sides of all of the deep state corruption that goes all the way up to the presidency and beyond into this quote unquote deep state, or as Vivek would say, the managerial class, the unelected bureaucrats. So look, again, I don't think it's going to, either way, it's not going to really change anybody's mind. I think that Trump going on some of these podcasts is giving him an opportunity to be seen maybe by some people who didn't really pay much attention. So for example, he went on over the last month or so, he's gone on the Theo Von podcast, which he's a big comedian. He went on the Flagrant podcast, which is a comedy podcast. So, I mean, he's been being seen by people who may or may not be very politically active. So maybe that's going to push the needle in his favor.
Well, I also think, there are people out there that wanted to vote for Kamala just because she's a woman or just because she's a person of color. And I think if they watch that interview on Fox, that'll change some minds. They're like, wow, I can't vote for Trump, but I can't vote for her. She doesn't say anything. The thing about apologizing to the families of girls who died because of her immigration policies, and her answer was, it must be a terrible tragedy for them. That's not an apology. She didn't apologize. She took no responsibility for anything. That's what she's a politician. She's a great politician, but she's not presidential. She's not a leader. She's never won an election, and she's running for the highest office in the world. She's never won an election in her life in anything. She's been handed everything. She was handed the vice presidency. She was picked, selected, not elected. The primary, our side went through a full primary, and Trump came out the winner. She wasn't even primary. So I disagree. I think this will change some hearts and minds for anyone that was like, I can't stand Trump. Let's see if she can hold her own. She can't hold her own with it was the most useless 25 minutes I've ever spent, because I didn't learn anything about her. I learned she has a temper. I learned she's got a nasty side. I learned that she's not a leader. I learned that she can't handle follow-up questions. I learned that she is very good at deflecting and not taking responsibility for anything. These are all things we don't want in a president, by the way.
It just confirmed again all the things that we knew to be true about her.
Right.
That because the interview went exactly as those of us on our side thought it would.
How did the folks on her team think it would help her? What was the goal?
At this point, I think they're just trying to stack the appearance of some sort of a win, because her side will spin that. So they'll, again, because if you go on legacy media, MSNBC, CNN, if you look at the clips from there, they're just going to talk about how, again, she was brave and went to the lion's den and all that. So in her, they're just trying to build up as much ammunition as possible and hope that shores up her base, or gets them fired up. But look, man, if people are on the fence and they don't think they can vote for Kamala, but they're still on the fence with Trump, stay home. Great. We don't want
Yeah.
you messing up
Yeah,
the,
sit
the election.
this one out, guys.
Sit
Yeah.
it out. Sit it out.
Yeah, to sum things up from my perspective, I think she would not. They wouldn't let her anywhere near Fox News unless they thought she needed to do it. And I
Mhm.
think they realized after doing it, let's never do that, something like that again. She
Yeah.
can't go on she can't be alone in any situation without a teleprompter with someone that's not going to throw her softballs. If there's one hard ball in that pitching process, it's bad for her. So don't do that
Yep.
again.
Yep. So
And this
how is
hope people don't pay attention, I guess, is the plan.
That's exactly the plan. Look, if Biden could get elected from hanging out in his basement in the last election, then they're going to do everything they can to elect Kamala.
But yeah,
I mean,
they
look,
had COVID. They could blame COVID for that. There's no
sure.
COVID's gone, so there's no cover. COVID was
Yep.
the cover.
Yep. And now she's on her own. So again, I think they maybe were using this as a bit of a test to see if she could hold her own against a longer form podcast on, say, Joe Rogan. I think now the answer is a resounding no. She's not able
Absolutely
to do it.
not. No.
How is she going? If she can't handle Brett Baer for 26 minutes, how is she going to handle Vladimir Putin, or how's she going to handle Kim Jong-un, or how's she going to handle, these other world leaders
Exactly.
that are way tougher, and then try to represent the entire country? Look, I think it's becoming apparent to at least the powers that be that her chances are dwindling by the day.
Yeah.
Maybe not her followers, because they're just blindly going to follow her no matter what. And again, they can say the same thing about the Trump supporters, but at least we know what we're voting for. We may not be voting necessarily for the man. There have been plenty of people who are voting for Trump that have acknowledged that they're not necessarily voting for the man. They have many differences and issues with him personally,
Right.
and all of that, but his policies, that's what they're voting for. And the coalition he's put together, they're not just voting for Trump, they're voting for RFK and Tulsi and Vivek and, and all of these other people, and the coalition he's built behind him. Kamala hasn't built up a coalition, and those that say, oh, she's got Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney, and I was like, great, you can have them. You can have
no one
the
knows those people.
warmongers.
They're ancient history. And by the way, at one point in the interview, Brett did ask her, he said, so you're for a stronger border, you're for not letting illegal immigrants vote, but your running mate is. In the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz has enacted laws to make all those things possible. To which her response was, well, as president, I will follow the law of the federal government. Like, you'll make the law. You're making the laws now. Like, that's not an answer. So why? So again, do you think she even had a say in picking Tim Walz? I guarantee you the DNC. I guarantee you that was not her decision.
Sure. Well, because she originally wanted to go with Shapiro, and because of whatever potential fallout that would have resulted in, they said, okay, well, you're going to pick. So this is proof of this is the deep state in action. This is exactly what they're doing. This is the deep state in action. This is picking a candidate, picking the vice presidency, scripting every move that she makes. And say what you will about Trump, but if you really want to talk about somebody going to the lion's den, the guy has repeatedly gone into unfriendly territory and held his own. So
I agree.
Look, just in terms of pure leadership, we're hiring a leader. You're hiring a leader to lead the country and to represent the best interest of America. Kamala is not a leader, and she's not going to represent the best interest of the United States.
What I find to be interesting is, as we're having this conversation, it just hit me. No one said the name Hunter Biden in about 3 months. Isn't that convenient?
Oh, well, because look, once because that was part of the deal that they probably made with Joe. Listen, you step aside. We're going to make sure that all of this stuff goes away. The Hunter Biden stuff, all these scandals, and you'll be remembered as the transitional president. But what happens? I mean, his argument could be, well, see, they got rid of me and I could have beat Trump, but now they're stuck with her when they should have kept with me. I think they're going to lose. They're going to lose either way. His legacy is not going to be secure.
No.
He had 50 years in politics. And
One-term presidents are not considered great presidents unless they die or get killed in battle. So no, he was elected
again.
He was exactly what we said he was. He was again. He rammed COVID, and it was the perfect storm to get him in there. And then he did nothing. He just opened the floodgates. He opened the southern border and started two endless wars.
Yeah.
Well done, Joe.
Absolutely.
Well done.
So,
well done, Kamala.
We will see what happens on November 5th. We encourage anybody to vote early. as early as possible. Bank your vote because you don't know what's going to happen come election
Right.
day. There could be
Right.
some craziness. There could be some shenanigans. Oh my
Right.
God, all of a sudden the power went out at our polling station. Oh, would you
Right.
look at that? So you never know. So we encourage people to vote early, bank your vote, record your vote. If anything, just take your cell phone, take a picture maybe of the screen after you voted. So all of that. So
Right.
in closing, I guess, what
Yes.
would be your message? Because I know we talked about this on the last episode, the importance of voting. Again, we've been saying this a lot. Support is
Right.
great. Donations are great. Rallies are great. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to people showing up. What's your take? Where do you think we're going? And how do you think it's going to turn out on election day?
I think it's going to turn out great for Trump. But I think if anyone needs a reason to vote for Trump, watch this interview. If you're still undecided on any point, watch this interview of Kamala Harris talking to Bret Baier from Fox News. If you can stomach it for 25 minutes and see exactly why you should not vote for her, or if you can't vote for Trump, you should sit it out because that person cannot become the president. She has no idea what she's talking about. She's just a sounding board. She's a puppet. She's a sounding board. I can't believe that she's actually the nominee. In my lifetime, I never thought I'd see the DNC put up someone this weak, this unprepared, and this unfit to serve.
She's the nominee only by proxy because they couldn't do anything, with the donation money. So they had to run her. They were stuck with her. So which ultimately at the end of the day, it's probably the biggest favor that Joe Biden has ever done this country.
Well, and actually, last comment about the interview, Bret Baier actually brought that up in the 26 minutes. He said, sure, Vice President Harris, but you were encouraging donors to give money to President Biden up until March of this year. What about their vote for him? Which she just, I'm going to follow the law. Joe Biden did the right thing. It's going to be a new day. No answers. No answers to anything. To quote Freud, sometimes a cigar is a cigar, and sometimes a bait and switch is a bait and switch. And shame on them. If you voted for Biden or gave money to his campaign, if you vote for her, I don't know what to say to that.
Bill Clinton certainly knows a thing or two about cigars, and we will we'll find out how this turns out. Again, I don't think this is gonna end well for her. And look, there's going to be a lot to talk about after the election. Even assuming this goes our way and Trump ends up walking away with the presidency, which is becoming more and more likely by the day, unless there's some really sketchy shenanigans that happen on election day. But the fight doesn't end when, if and when Trump gets elected. The fight is in many ways just beginning. So there's going to be plenty to talk about. But in the meantime, we always encourage all of you to like and subscribe and follow at Patriots Only, please. We are all over the interwebs. We're on the TikToks. We're on the Rumbles. We're on the YouTubes. We're on the Spotifys. We're on the Facebooks. We're on the Instagrams. We're all over the place. I think I counted 12 or 13 platforms. So, I mean, we are syndicated for your pleasure. So there you go. And if you are so inclined, check us out. Join in the mailing list at patriotsonlyplease.com. And as always, I am your humble servant, Jeff, and we've got Mr. Soli over here. And we will be doing more of these. We promise. Our schedules are a little nuts, but we definitely do what we can to ensure that Trump gets elected in November in a few weeks, and he's got the support that he needs going forward, because again, there's going to be plenty of stuff to talk about and plenty of things to defend once he's in. So the battle is just beginning. Let's just hope we get the right general in there. So all right, any parting thoughts before we hop off?
Remember in November, guys, the simple question to ask yourselves: is your life better now under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's administration than it was under Trump? The answer is obviously no, unless you're super wealthy. Even then, the answer should still be no. But for average Americans that work every day and have families to feed, things have gotten way too expensive. And opening up the southern border and letting millions of people to come into our country and giving them our Social Security money and our tax money to live for free is insane. It has to stop. Please vote for Trump.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right. On that note, keep trumping, and we will see you on the next one. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye-bye.